What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Red Zone Sports here, breaking down the main slate for the NFL this Sunday. You may notice that I'm alone due to some scheduling conflicts this week and sick children and pretty much everything else you can imagine. We are going to be rocking a few shorter solo kind of shows here for each of us, Joey, Jim, and myself, breaking down each of our favorite plays at each position, as well as our favorite stacked and bold predictions. So before we get rocking and rolling, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. As everybody always says, helps a ton. And we are no different. Cool. Let's rock and roll here. So when you're looking at the slate this week, obviously the first thing that jumps out, we've got 2 Monday night games again, no bye weeks. So it still is a bigger slate. Which is great. But I think the one thing that you really notice here is there's a lot of really, really good spots and matchups. And I think we can expect a very high scoring slate this week. That's just my opinion. I think if you're looking up top at the quarterback position here, I'm not too interested in either Hurts or Mahomes. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, we know, can use his legs a little bit. But he is just down, man, with his weapons. Obviously, Saquon Barkley saved the day for him last week. But there's a good shot that they will not have Lane Johnson. They will not have Devonta Smith. And A.J. Brown is likely to miss as well. So although it's a good matchup, I'm not going to be paying $7,200 for Hurts here. Mahomes, he's really just defaulted into the mode of what you would think of a modern-day NBA superstar, where he just does enough to win the game and doesn't really mess around beyond that. So I don't know if he quite hit value with Mahomes ever, even though he's the best in the game. Who I like up here up top is right below that, though. I think this is a absolute smash CJ Stroud type game. We just got word that Tank Dell is likely to miss, which in my opinion makes things a little bit easier, right? It consolidates down the target share. And I think CJ Stroud is my favorite quarterback on the slate against a defense that doesn't really belong in the NFL right now, which is Jacksonville. We'll find out if they've completely quit and sold out on the year this Sunday. But at home, Houston just got embarrassed and just blown up in Minnesota. I think they come back here, a divisional game with a vengeance, and blast Jacksonville here. So CJ Stroud's my favorite. Then I think you got to look to this next 3 guys, which are my favorite. This is my player pool this week. And I'll talk about a few others, but it's CJ Stroud up top. Then I like Kyler Murray for obvious reasons. I think a lot of people are going to like this game. Both teams give it up through the air. Arizona, Washington, both Kyler Murray and the Jaden Daniels side of things. We'll see if Cincinnati was just terrible or if Daniels started to really figure some things out through the air. And then I think the other one you got to look at is Joe Burrow. Even though Cincinnati is kind of a shocking 0-3 here to start, he's still been really productive. He had Jamar Chase back last week, or I'm sorry, not back. He had T. Higgins back last week, but that opened things up for Jamar Chase. We saw a 28-point game out of Burrow. If Carolina can keep this thing somewhat close and they can score some points with Andy Dalton at the helm, we could see another explosion matchup here out of Burrow. So I like all these guys up here. So Stroud, Kyler, Burrow, Daniels. And then if you go down a little bit, I think 2 guys on the lower end you can definitely consider is Brock Purdy at 6,100. He's at home. They're coming off of that bad loss down in LA versus a Patriots defense, which is just not very good overall. Even though Purdy's been missing a few of his major weapons, he's been fantastic. 3 touchdowns last week through the air. I think New England's going to do their best to force that kind of game script again. And I think Brock Purdy's going to have a pretty damn good game here at home. So for 6,100, once again, another kind of situation with a consolidated target share. I don't mind that at all. And then I think you got to keep looking to Sam Darnold. I know they're going to Green Bay, hostile environment, divisional game. Green Bay's defense has been playing really well. But man, Minnesota is just in their bag right now. He's not my favorite stack on the slate, and I'll get to that next as to why. But I think you just got to keep looking at this guy. For 5,700, he's just absolutely producing. And this Minnesota offense just has it going on, and they're playing really efficient, good football. So Darnold, 5,700, definitely in play for me this week. And then below that, I think you can get crazy if you want to, but I just don't think you really need to this week. On to running backs. Up top, it's no surprise. I think Saquon Barkley at 8K is very fairly priced. I want to take a look at ownership and how I'm planning to build this week. But he's absolutely probably the best play on the slate, especially if you see Devontae Smith missing this game this week. They're just going to have to lean on him. But my favorite play up top here is going to be Alvin Kamara. We saw him get 29 touches last week, and that was, a week after he scored 4 touchdowns. So they're just absolutely leaning on Alvin here. We have a road divisional game. This is a big game for New Orleans to kind of get back on track. They're going to want to obviously win this one. I think that they'd absolutely keep this close, Atlanta. We're seeing that they're starting to kind of figure some things out. They took Kansas City down kind of to the wire last week. So I'm expecting a good game here, and I think this one could absolutely pop off, and I want all the Kamara I can get if he's going to continue getting that target share. In the mid-range, I think guys that are in play but not kind of top of my list are Kyren Williams, 7,300. Very similar. The Rams have nobody else, and they are not afraid to use Kyren and lean on him. Jordan Mason, if you're not going to be looking to Brock Purdy, is still getting the very top end and majority of touches, 18 to 20 a game. So he is heavily involved. It just wasn't quite there for him last week. So depending on how you think that game plays out, you can absolutely go back to Jordan Mason again at home, and he's the guy there for sure. James Conner is the one that is very interesting to me. 6,500. I talked about it. Everybody seems to really be gravitating towards this game, but I don't think Conner is going to be the one that people look to. And I really like him at 6,500. If he is especially going to be involved in the passing game here, we'll see what happens with Trey McBride, but I like him quite a bit here at 6,500. But probably my favorite running back on the slate is $100 less than him. And it's revenge week. Aaron Jones goes back to Green Bay after they pushed him out the door and thought that they can upgrade with Josh Jacobs. Give me Aaron Jones to score and pop it into the end zone twice this week. I think Aaron Jones has a monster game here versus his former team. So Aaron Jones. And then I think below that, I'm not too in the loop with where ownership is on him right now, but with Austin Eckler being ruled out, I think you got to look to Brian Robinson. Very similar. He's going to get the bulk touches there for that team. They're on the road. We know teams like to play a little bit more conservative on the road. And I think Brian Robinson, who's been really good and efficient to begin with, now doesn't have Eckler cutting into his touches here. Very similar to the Connor play. I think it's a great way to get exposure to this game without playing kind of the main pieces. So Robinson, and then if you want to look below that, I think you could look to Zach Moss, who's definitely getting touches, but we saw Chase Brown start to mix in last week. That one makes me a little bit weary. I think you can look to Chuba Hubbard at 5,700. I want to see what ownership comes in on him, but they have no hesitations leaning on him now that they can run pretty much a real offense with Andy Dalton at the helm. And then I think if you see that Jaylen Warren misses this game, Najee Harris is definitely in play at 5,600. That's kind of where I'm going. Running backs, receivers, I'll try to keep this short and try to keep it kind of consolidated. I'll talk about a few guys here kind of at each price point. Give me 1 second. Let me organize this. So up top, again, you can look to a bunch of these guys. I mean, none of them are bad plays, obviously. You've got Jefferson, who you can play in any matchup. The Jair Brown or Alexander situation does scare me a little bit with Jefferson, but he can score and get open versus anybody. So I like him. Jamar Chase obviously bounced back last week. Marvin Harrison looks really good at 7,500. But probably my favorite spend up is going to be Rashee Rice. Look, the guy is just the main focal point of this offense now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Mahomes looks to him. I would say, if not a quarter of the time, half the time in terms of target share. I mean, he had 14 targets versus Atlanta. Like, if I can get 14, even 12 targets at 7,300 with him, and for how good Mahomes is, I'll take that all freaking day long. So he's just, for my money, like, he's just kind of the layup matchup up there and play. If you're going to go down a little bit, kind of moving into a little bit higher, but the mid-range, Stephon Diggs at 6,600 is my favorite play in this range. I talked about Houston, and I think this is a big opportunity for them to bounce back and absolutely rock Jacksonville's world. Stephon Diggs is going to be a big piece of that, I think, this week. So 6,600, he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. We talked about revenge week at running back, revenge week at receiver. Amari Cooper looked awesome last week. He is still every bit Amari Cooper. It's just a matter of can Deshaun Watson get him the football. And I think they will force feed him in this offense. And we saw the Raiders defense get absolutely smoked last week. Max Crosby is potentially going to miss this one. So I do not love the spot for the Raiders defense. I don't mind actually playing them, contrary to what I just said, just because their price point and everything. And Deshaun Watson's playing quarterback, but 12 targets last week for Amari Cooper, 8 before that, 9 before that. He's just a really steady play, and he has massive upside here. So I think Amari Cooper has a big one this weekend. Going down a little bit, I think the one guy that is getting a ton of steam, and he is going to continue to get steam, is Deontay Johnson, but he's probably chalk that I'm going to eat this week. He's just in such an awesome spot here versus Cincinnati. If you want a pivot, I do not mind taking some shots on Xavier Legette. 4,800. He was, I think, their second round pick this year. But South Carolina kid, he's got all the tools and skill set in the world. And now with Adam Thielen on IR, they're going to have to lean on him a little bit more. So I kind of look for the veteran quarterback, Andy Dalton, to get him involved early here. And I think possibly a guy that you could take some deep shots to, no doubt. So I think Xavier Legette, if you're going to go this way, is a really nice and good pivot off of Deontay this week. Moving down a little, I think, let me see. Josh Reynolds down here, like 4,300 is an interesting play. Denver goes up to New York, and I don't love that matchup. But I do think Sauce Gardner is going to mostly stay on Cortland Sutton, which means Reynolds is me getting kind of that secondary corner. And I think they're going to have to find ways to get him the football to move that thing. Darnell Mooney at 4,400 is right in that range as well. I like him a lot in this matchup versus the Saints. And then I think a sneaky play down here, man, we saw it last week. Everyone kind of jumped off of him with T. Higgins coming back. It is very, very clear that Andre Yoshivas is very involved in this offense. He is the number 3 in this offense. He has been really productive, 7 targets on Monday night. Again, we love the matchup. We love Cincinnati here in terms of the offense. I know everyone's going to go to Chase. Higgins a little bit less than that, but I think Yoshivas is very much in play here at 4,100. So he's probably my favorite spend down. Below that, you can get crazy if you want to. I'm probably not going to unless I have to. There's no real layup play, in my opinion, this week. So moving to tight ends real quick. I think if you look at the position, it's been kind of a tire fire this year, to be totally honest. I still like Brock Bowers the most up here. 5,600, they just didn't get him the ball last week, but they didn't get the ball to anybody last week. So I think the Raiders know that they need to get him involved in this offense and get him involved early. He's one of the best players at the position in the league already, and definitely in their offense. So 5,600, if you want kind of a mini stack, bringing it back from Amari, I like that a lot. Look, if the receivers continue to miss for Philadelphia, we saw what Goddard did last week. I don't know if he quite repeats that, but I got to imagine he's going to be just as involved in the passing game. So I think you have to look to Goddard at 5,100 if both Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are out. Moving down a little bit, I don't know if Njoku's going to play 5K. Yeah, I think it's okay. Cole Kmet at 4,400 is pretty interesting. They started to use him a little bit more last week. Revenge week continues. Zach Ertz going back to Arizona, 4K. I like that. Freiermuth I could play at 3,900. And then I think Gesicki at 3,500 is definitely in play as well. If you're looking for just a bottom of the barrel, you need a salary saver. I think Eric All for Cincinnati is a very interesting play. Everyone's going to look at a snap share and say, oh my gosh, and DraftKings said he's playing behind these other 2 guys. And yeah, he is. He is playing less snaps than all those other guys. However, when he's on the field, they use him. He still had 4 targets on Monday night. He's going to be involved at his price tag, which is what? He is 2,500. dude, if he catches 3 balls for like 20 yards, like you're okay. If he pops one in the end zone, like you're in business. So I'll take some shots on Eric All, especially if I need to save some salary this week. Defense, I mean, guys, I'm going to try to jam the Texans as much as I can this week. I don't know how much I can quite, they're not that expensive. I also like Pittsburgh at 3,300. Anthony Richardson just loves giving the ball to the other team. So I think Steelers at 33, Texans at 3K. And I think if you're going to go down, I do think the Raiders are interesting. Where are they at? The hell are the Raiders on the defense? Sorry guys, this is just awesome potting here. 3,200. So they're not that cheap actually. I think I was maybe thinking of FanDuel where they're way down there. But I think one other team you can look to is Atlanta. Like I said, I think this is going to be a pretty good game. I think it's going to go back and forth, and we've seen Derek Carr turn the ball over in those moments before. So if you're looking for a really cheap defense, Atlanta is probably where I'm going. Beyond that, I already touched on, it's kind of wrap things up here. My favorite stack is going to be Houston this week. I love the CJ Stroud and just go double barrel, go Nico Collins and go Stephon Diggs. And I think they're just going to put it on Jacksonville here at home. So like Houston a lot. My bold call of the week is going to be Aaron Jones. Gets in the box twice, and he is a top 3 running back this week at 6,400. He's going to be one of my favorite plays on the board. So hopefully that helps everyone kind of get started and get rolling with building your lineups. Follow us on the Twitter machine. I'm at Vinnie Levine 29, and give us a follow, subscribe.